Let your voice be heard, and let the president know in no uncertain terms that we are alive, awake, and we are woke. We are not going away. The more people that show up here eventually will take over all of D.C., and I'll have no choice but to resign.
Let the sun shine. Let the sun shine.
All righty. Well, that was obviously Rosie O'Donnell protesting outside the White House. The president, of course, those in New Jersey, along with a group of Broadway performers. The hostility between Rosie O'Donnell and Donald Trump goes back more than a decade. But recently, Rosie has been inspired to new heights of derangement. Yesterday, she had a meltdown on MSNBC.
He should not be president, and I don't believe that he's a legitimate president. I believe if it wasn't for Russia, he never would have won. He's a horrible human with no soul, and he has a very serious mental disorder. There are so many psychiatrists who are trying to get out the duty to warn. They wrote a book. This guy is in no means mentally stable enough to run this country, and he should be impeached, and every congressman who hasn't filed those articles should lose their job.
Well, you don't have to wonder where she stands. Then she took her act to CNN and accused the president's supporters, you guys, some of you, of being paid to attend his rallies.
First of all, people are paid, Chris. You know that. People were paid since he went down on the escalator. He pays people to show up at those
but
rallies.
I don't know that that's why he gets tens of thousands at the rallies. I think he captures a lot of emotion for people.
He doesn't get tens of thousands. When did he get tens of thousands at the last rally? Tell me when.
Oh, no, not at the Tampa. I think they only had 9,000 seats, and there were people outside. But, Rosie, I've seen them. He gets big groups of people who come out.
Yeah, well, there you go. Gosh. Larry O'Connor is associate editor of the Washington Times. He joins us now. Larry, isn't it a sign of the continued detachment from reality to say that Donald Trump is paying supporters? In a way, I want all Democrats to think that because they really don't understand what's going on. You've got a piece on this today. What's your take on this return of hers and this very strange approach?
Well, I want to go one step further. I think that every Republican running for election this November should just play what we just saw on an endless loop, right? Let Rosie O'Donnell be the spokesperson for the Democratic National Committee at this point. It really is a new level of derangement, but also a lot of the things that she's saying that we just saw are just patently offensive, not just to Trump supporters, but let's start with mental illness. I mean, Rosie has been public about her own bout with depression. I don't know if you've known anyone with real legitimate mental illness. One thing you don't do is accuse somebody of having mental illness when they don't, or if they haven't said that they do. It's offensive. It uses the idea of having mental illness as some sort of pejorative. It's obnoxious. She did the same thing with the president's son, Barron, and suggested that the president's son had autism. It's so out of bounds. She is just a horrible, horrible human being, and now she's rallying people in front of the White House, Tammy. It's disconcerting.
Well, and you know, Broadway especially. I live in New York. Yeah. Broadway is an industry that relies on the tourism of Middle America. It's average Americans. For some, it's a bucket list issue, but traveling to New York is a fabulous, fun thing to do. It's their audience. And it seems to me, I know some people were there who were like we're in Hamilton, but when and the tickets are not cheap. We're asking Americans to spend a lot of money to see them perform, and I love performers. I think they're terrific. But isn't this? And you know, everybody's got a right to be political. But doesn't this harm, as considering the nature of what we've been experiencing in America, doesn't this harm, beyond Rosie O'Donnell, this kind of activism, doesn't it harm both their industry and the Democrat Party in general?
I worry about that. I used to work in this industry, actually, before Andrew Breitbart discovered me and plucked me out of obscurity to be a political pundit of all things. I used to work in the management business on Broadway and in Los Angeles. Right. And I adore this industry. I adore the art form. But, you know, if the entertainment business leans to the left, Broadway leans so far to the left, they've fallen over and they can't get up. They really are. And I love the business, but the fact is, you know, Rosie was just saying to her fellow Broadway performers there at the protest, make sure the president knows you're alive. Well, he knows they're alive, but he also knows that all of those people that you're talking about are alive. The people from Middle America who save all their pennies, they come to New York, they buy tickets to a Broadway show, and when they see what these performers think of them, what the industry thinks of them, they might go on a cruise next time.
Yeah, and thank you, Larry, so much. I mean, this is a point where at some stage, Americans coming together, finding and focusing on what we do have in common, like better paychecks, raises, right, tax cuts, a safer country. We all benefit from those things, and maybe it's time to start focusing on that. Larry, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thank you.